Terence, let's start with you. Tell me what happened to your brother, Mark.
Well, my brother in 2012 had a gastric flu, a general infection, normal infection. Unfortunately for him, he had an adverse reaction to that, and he had sepsis, and he went into septic shock. And having walked into A&E at midday on the Thursday afternoon, he was in full cardiac arrest by 5:30 on life support the same day.
Just a terrible thing to happen to your family. I know that he was married, he had a little girl who was 4 at the time, is that right?
Sophie was 3, yeah.
3 at the time. So sorry to hear what happened to your brother. And he was told, was he not, that he had gastric flu? It seemed it was a pretty innocent thing that he was suffering from.
Well, yeah, he had an infection. His wife had something similar. You know, his daughter had something similar, but they both recovered. Unfortunately, my brother didn't. He treated it the way he thought he should do, paracetamol, the usual sort of things. He did the usual things. He didn't know he was as ill as he was, and unfortunately, nor did anybody else.
Which is what any one of us would have done. I mean, had you ever heard of sepsis, or had your brother before this happened?
No, none of us. I'll be honest with you. The first time I saw sepsis was on his death certificate, the very first time I'd ever seen the word. And you can imagine me thinking, you know, what is that all about?
Right, OK, and I'm sure since then, since losing your brother, you've wanted to do an awful lot to raise awareness. Let's bring Ron in here. Unfortunately, this happens relatively frequently in the UK, doesn't it? Why do not many more of us know about it?
So yes, it's very frequent. It's 100,000 cases a year in the UK. It's enormous in scale. We don't know a lot about it, in part because until recently there hasn't been any body to champion its cause. It doesn't belong to a particular Royal College, but also because the symptoms can be very varied. As Terence says, you know, his brother had symptoms of a gastric bug. It can look like diarrhea and vomiting. It can start with a nasty cough. It can start with a red patch on the skin. And it's only when things start to take hold and get worse that people start to feel unwell, and it's at that point we need them to know what to look for.
I'm sure, Terence, you've spent many months, many times thinking what could you have done or what you would rather have happened. What do you think could have saved Mark's life?
I think what could have saved Mark's life and what will save lots of other people's lives is just awareness. People didn't know how ill he was, including himself. I know all about it now. I knew nothing then. If I saw somebody who was seriously ill or iller than they'd ever been before, felt iller than they've ever been before, get yourself checked out because, you know, it could be more serious than you think it is.
And is that the trick? Because as you said, Ron, the symptoms are very confusing because they're symptoms of having a cold or, you know, I don't know, some kind of stomach upset, which you don't want to then go and pester your doctor about, do you?
Absolutely, but we have produced with the Department of Health some pocket yards so that people know what to look for. If they have an adult with sepsis they're worried about, we have the symptoms to look for. Children with sepsis, similarly, we can advise parents as to what to look for. And the key is not to take no for an answer, to phone a healthcare professional, to make an appointment with the GP, or simply to phone 111 or 999 and say, I'm worried this might be sepsis.
So, Terence, not to be polite and say, oh, don't worry about me, I'll see how I feel in the morning. Go and get some advice. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer now in the patient pest. I really am. I think you really should, if you feel that bad and you think you're worse than before, push for it. Push for the answers.